Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Landry Duvall. I'm the Director of Music here at Idlewild. We are so grateful that you have made time to join us for this afternoon's concert. Before we begin, I want to remind you to please silence anything that might make a noise during the recital so as not to disturb those around you, and particularly our recitalists. During the concert today, a collection will be taken to further the musical ministries of Idlewild Presbyterian Church. The collection will be taken during the arrangement of Amazing Grace, listed in your program. We hope that you might feel led to support ongoing musical events such as this. It is a deep honor for us to welcome Bradley Welch to Idlewild this afternoon. On the back of your program, I hope you will take time to read about his many accolades and accomplishments. Bradley truly is one of the finest organists in the United States of America, and I know you will sense his consummate musicianship in the moments ahead. What his bio does not say, however, is how deeply generous and gracious Bradley is. He is on one hand a fine musician, and the other an equally wonderful person. It has been a pleasure for our musicians here at Idlewild to get to know him and work alongside him as we did this morning. We hope you will join us following the recital in the TK Young Room for a light reception. Now please join me in welcoming Bradley Welch.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here at Idlewild to make music in this incredible space. And thank you for coming on a Sunday afternoon. It was a joy to be in worship with this congregation and choir this morning. And I'm especially grateful to Landry Duvall for being such a consummate host. We start with a bit of French fire there in the toccata by Gigoux to show off some colors that this instrument loves to make. It's a wonderful instrument with a French accent in many ways. But now we're going to shift gears a little bit and kind of take you on a tour of as many different colors as I can show in about 8 minutes' time. This set of variations by Max Drischner is on a little-known Lutheran Christmas tune, O Laufet ihr Hirten, O Run You Shepherds. And although here we are in May when it's 90 degrees outside, perhaps a little thinking of Christmas and shepherds might cool us off a bit. The interesting thing about this piece is that Drischner gives no registration indications. He doesn't say what stops I should use. I love pieces like that because they allow me to customize it to whatever instrument that I'm playing. And it gives a great opportunity for showing off lots of different flute and string and reed colors of this organ. It all culminates in the 9th variation in a rollicking shepherd's dance. So I hope you enjoy this set of variations on O Run You Shepherds by Max Drischner. So another study in contrasts is the next piece that we'll get to enjoy, the Prelude and Fugue in D major. It's one of my favorites of all of Bach's output. It is very youthful and exuberant, as I think the key of D major tends to call forth triumphant music. The piece opens very flamboyantly with a pedal scale and some fanfares in the manuals that alternate back and forth. But just as suddenly, we get then a change of mood section in minor with sharply dotted French overture-like rhythms. And then soon we're off in D major again. So you'll hear this contrast of moods going back and forth during the prelude. And it all ends in a very heavy, dissonant for Bach's time, grave section. This is a wonderful example of how Bach loved to explore the limits of tonality in many ways. And I'm going to give you a very special little short lesson on something unique and wonderful about this instrument. Most pianos and most organs in this country are tuned in equal temperament, which means I could play in C major, I could play in E major, I could play in F sharp major, and they would all sound exactly the same in terms of the tuning. Certain organs, like this one, have been tuned in a temperament like Bach might have known, where certain keys are very, very well in tune, like C major, D major, G major, F major, and then other keys that are more distant from C, like F sharp, and those have a kind of grittiness to the tuning. And I mention this because in this grave section at the end of the prelude, you'll hear some chords that you think, what in the world is happening? It sounds like the organ's out of tune. It is out of tune, but it's intentional and Bach loved to explore and play around with this. But never fear, then we get right to the fugue, which is back in D major and is wonderfully exuberant. I wish in a way that you could see my feet, because when you hear the fugue subject that I play in my hands, you realize that I'm going to be getting my exercise when it comes in the feet. So I hope you enjoy Prelude and Fugue in D major, a study in contrasts. tell you, there is nothing like Bach, and it's a lot more interesting than the treadmill. So I'd like next to play two sets of pieces, all fairly short. The first is a set of three, I say, miniatures by American composers. First, the wonderful trumpet tune by Frederick Swann. Dr. Swann was for many years the director of music and organist at the Riverside Church in New York City, and then at the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, California. And I was so inspired by watching the Hour of Power broadcast from the Crystal Cathedral. I learned so much about great worship and service playing just from video recording those. And as soon as I got home from playing my own church job in high school, I would sit down in front of the VHS machine and rewind and then watch the Hour of Power. So Fred died this past November of 2022. And so it's all the more poignant when I play his music now. This piece is in ABA form. In fact, the first and second and third pieces that I'm going to play for you now are all in ABA form. What that means is the music you hear at the beginning of the piece will come back at the end. The outer sections of this trumpet tune are a trumpet tune. The middle section is in D minor and has some kind of sparkly, sprightly, mischievous colors. Then after that, we'll have the Pastoral by Raymond Hahn, which is one of a set of three lyric pieces that he wrote. The outer sections feature a beautiful oboe stop, and the inner section is, to me, very wonderful on all of the rich string and foundation stops of this organ. And then finally, we'll have a piece that I guarantee you will never hear in worship on a Sunday morning, William Albright's Jig for the Feet. And again, I wish you could see my feet during this. I play the whole thing with the exception of about 4 notes where I reach up and play very slowly on the manuals, but everything else that you hear will be feet alone. I was trying to decide if I should handcuff my hands behind my head so you could see, but you'll get the idea. This is an etude written by William Albright, who was himself an organist, and it's meant to kind of tackle the organist pedal technique and refine that through bringing across this jig feel. And it is quite mischievous with a wonderful closing section that is marked Tarantella Demente. It's a demented dance that you're supposed to dance to get all the poisons out of your system. This one is also a good substitute for the treadmill. Then after that, I'm going to play 2 short hymn settings. Setting of Amazing Grace by Frederick Swann that began as an improvisation for an Hour of Power broadcast. And then after that, the toccata by my good friend Al Travis on Marian, which is Rejoice You Pure in Heart, which he wrote for his wife Marita. I've learned that it's always good to play something everyone knows. I used to practice at my church, Concord United Methodist in Knoxville, which was where we had a 3-manual electronic organ. I didn't have an organ at home. So I would go practice at church, and my grandmother lived 2 doors down from the church, and she would sometimes come up and knock on the door and ask if she could come in. I was always glad to have a captive audience for whatever Widor Symphony movement or Bach Toccata and Fugue I'd been studying for the past 3 or 4 months. So I would tell her a little bit about the music, just as I'm doing with you. And then I would start to play. But I noticed a pattern. About 30 seconds into whatever I was playing, I would see her reach for the hymnal in the pew rack, and she would spend the rest of Bach's Amazing Counterpoint just leafing through the hymnal. And so when I would finish the piece, I would expect encouragement. Great job. I can hear you're getting better. This is really good. Keep it up. No, she would just look up and she'd say, Could you play 378 now? So whenever I play Amazing Grace, I do that in memory of my grandmother because she was indeed a supporter. And 378 in the United Methodist Hymnal, it was her favorite hymn, Amazing Grace. So first, 3 miniature American pieces, and then after that, the 2 hymn settings. Thank you. So I want to say again, what a pleasure it's been being here making music in this incredible space. I count it a real privilege to be able to go around and play concerts in wonderful churches in beautiful spaces and to get to know wonderful people like Landry and all of the people of Idlewild. So thank you so much for this invitation. I'd like to close with two pieces from the French Romantic School. The first one I'd like to play is Andante Sostenuto from the Gothic Symphony by Charles-Marie Widor. Most of us know Widor best by his famous Toccata from the Fifth Symphony. He wrote a total of 10 organ symphonies, and all of these are collections of pieces, really more like suites in a way, that make the most of the big symphonic style organ that Widor had at his disposal at Saint-Sulpice in Paris. An interesting little trivia tidbit is that when Widor was hired at Saint-Sulpice, he was originally hired as an interim, and he ended up serving there for nearly 70 years. And someone looked at the records, and that title of interim organist was never officially rescinded. So I think he wins the award for the longest serving interim ever. If you're ever on Jeopardy, that could come in handy. And then I'll close with the famous finale to Louis Viern's first organ symphony. Vierne was down the street a bit at the Cathedral Basilica of Notre Dame. And Vierne himself was greatly influenced by Widor. Vierne wrote a total of 6 organ symphonies in a different style than Widor, but definitely in the same way, making the most of these incredible instruments that they had at their disposal. The finale to Vierne 1, to me, is pure joy. It's like Easter Sunday morning with the church bells ringing, and the pedal plays out this wonderful melody that is very triumphant, and I feel like is a fitting conclusion to the program. If you'll permit me one moment of personal privilege, some of you may know that I'm a native Tennessean. I grew up in Knoxville, and through the wonders of Facebook, I connect sometimes with people from my past. And I had a former teacher who saw that I played a concert 2 weeks ago in Franklin, Tennessee, and she said, please let me know if you're ever in Tennessee again. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'll be at Idlewild Presbyterian. And I looked at the map, and she lives about 2 hours away, and I thought, that's probably too far. And she messaged me back and said that she would be here today. And not only was this a former music teacher in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade chorus who gave me opportunities to accompany the choirs when I was just learning how to be a choral collaborator, but she was also my piano teacher for 3 years. And so I would love to recognize Connie Hodge and have you thank her on my behalf for her role in my musical development. Connie, would you please stand? You know, we in so many ways in life, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we never know the seeds that our actions and our kindness and our time, we never know how those will bear fruit in the future. And so it means a great deal to have you here today. It means a great deal to me to have all of you here, and it's been a joy to share some music with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here.